Jason, good to meet you. I mean, we were talking for a half an hour offline about stuff, and we both had to stop and say, all right, look, we probably should record some of this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was great talking to you about ultra marathoning and stuff and I don't know, Pokemon and trading cards in vaults and stuff. There's some interesting stuff in there. Maybe we'll have to bring it talk about sometime.
Yeah, that could be our next conversation because
Yeah.
I try. People will say, oh, "Don't be so black pilled or doom." I'm like, okay, so maybe we'll do some lighter things just to show their
Yeah.
it's not all bad. Which I don't know about you, but I don't think it's all bad. I just this is where we're at now. I mean, this is just the reality of the situation.
Well, there's got to be a glint of hope. Ching.
So
We got to have hope. But the thing is, we've got to have resilience. And how can you have resilience if you're not educated and prepared? I mean,
well, also though too, I think you want to be objective. You want to look at, okay, where are we? Where are we realistically?
mm,
The world that we knew before COVID is not coming back, in my opinion. So how can we best prepare ourselves? I mean, how can we best prepare ourselves for potentially what's coming? Now, I don't know when this is coming, what it's going to look like, but there is some sort of
no.
reckoning coming, in my opinion. And
Well, yeah. I mean, you just look at your first comment you were saying. I mean, if is that coming back? Well, even our conversation doesn't exist anymore. That's finished. It doesn't. It happened in the past. It doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is right now, and of course that's not going to come back. Nothing. Everything's changing all the time. But the problem, of course, we have is this recency bias, isn't it? Like, oh, everything's going to carry on the way it's been carrying on forever. It's like, no. But somehow, most people seem to be built in with this recency bias that completely means they're not prepared for anything that's coming down the line.
why do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe, maybe we're not. Maybe because we're not taught to deal with change. Maybe society, especially the way it's been developing for the last 50 years, is doesn't teach young children how to deal with change. I don't see it in the educational system, you know, and, people aren't, I don't think I mean, look, obviously there's exceptions. And I think I was educated in a certain way that prepared me perfectly for change. But it's about being able to teach young people, I think, how to take responsibility, do their best to plan a mission. It could be the Scouts or something. Go out on your own and know there's no one looking over your shoulder, and take responsibility for what you have to do and be able to deal with whatever happens. And that includes, for instance, doing a weather forecast before you go out, telling your friends where you're going, being well prepared. I've got some Swedish friends, not Swedish, yeah, Swedish friends, and they say there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad gear, you know, and be able to go out there and deal with that and deal with the fact you might lose the route or the weather changes so badly you don't know where you are. And you have to deal with change and you have to deal with hard things. But I think we end up in this completely cotton wooled society where young people are not allowed to have that kind of experience. That's what it seems to me.
Well, and also I think that people don't want to face the reality of where things are, and they think that ignoring it will make it just go away. And I was literally having a conversation with a friend of mine last night, and we grew up together, so we always end up like bickering, like a married couple or something. And but we're close as could be. But I tell him he's blissfully unaware because I was explaining how restaurants, I don't know, half of them stay open, to be honest with you, like with the cost of food and the cost of labor. And I mean, it's just people are just getting squeezed from all over. And he was
Yeah.
like, well, I was at a restaurant on Saturday and it was packed. I'm like, well, yeah, that's Saturday. What is it like Sunday through Thursday? And just because of some places packed doesn't mean that their profit margins are just so narrow. And
But
oh god.
yeah, but I think as well, a lot of the problems you're talking about are insidious. They're creeping. They just come up slowly on you. And then suddenly you realize that, wow, why am I paying $15 for a burger? It used to be $4.50. But like, it doesn't happen overnight. Well, until COVID, and then things did happen. But if you ignore that for a second and the huge inflation that happened then, for most, like I set up Glint, for instance, because I thought that 2.5% or 2% inflation was bad enough, and losing 90% of the US dollar's purchasing power and the pound was bad enough. And that's insidious though, and it's creeping. It doesn't really like shout out at you. It's kind of just eroding and eating at you without you even knowing. It's like maybe some disease where you don't feel the pain, but it's slowly eating away at your flesh.
Right.
We're getting dark now.
And day in and day out, it continues to take a toll on you. Every trip to the grocery store, every time you have a kid that needs this or that, and also, I mean, everything is a grift. Everything is going up. Even for streaming services is going up. I mean, they hit you every which way. Insurance.
But even the streaming services, right? They get you because it goes up, and then guess what happens? This show is being brought to you with minimum adverts. It's like, hang on a second. When you set up, I was paying for your streaming service because there were no ads. Now you suddenly got ads in there. You've got me hooked, but come on. This is just like the way television was just 5 years ago. Why are we suddenly having ads again?
But
Anything not to kind of just pull you in.
but then you can pay more to get the ads removed, right? You can buy the premium plus whatever to take that away. What I always found interesting about that was like, so Apple, now they have Apple Music, but when you were buying something on iTunes, I'm like, okay, I got to buy the whole album here if I want to buy the whole album, and I don't get the CD, I don't get the box, I don't get packaging, and I don't really own it. Like if I die,
No.
I've got to leave my username and password to somebody. I can't share it. I can't send it to you.
Oh, check this out. So I, for Christmas, bought my wife a turntable because I mean, I love Spotify, not Spotify. Yeah, I love Spotify. It's great. The depth that you have in the market, the songs, the algorithm introducing you to tunes that I never would have listened to new bands and artists I never would have listened to. And it's like for discovery, I love all of that. But as you say, like, actually, what have I got? Nothing. If I don't pay my subscription next month, I've lost the whole thing. So I get at the turntable and it's great. And I buy it like I don't know. I think I bought her 5 albums. And at Christmas, I did use Spotify to play the first 2 beats of each song on every album. And if she guessed it, she could keep the album. And she got all 5 right. It was amazing. But her father came down to see me yesterday, and he said, I brought you this album. He's got a whole collection of albums. He's had for 50 years. And he pulls it. He said, this album I bought in 1978, and I heard this, and it just blew my mind and everything, and I bought it and everything. And he gives it to me. He said, here you have it. And I open it, I put it on, and I'm terrible at names, and I only just got it last night, so this is fresh. I can't remember who it was, but wow, it was like big band. It was a big band playing in the background. This beautiful voice, this woman singing over the top. It was just the most fantastic music. I was like, wow, this is fresh. I've never heard this before. It was incredible. But it was his, and he handed it to me. There's legacy happening here. Nothing with that in this anything that's pure digital.
No, and that's where. But maybe this is the opportunity now for what I believe is going to become a parallel. You're going to have more parallel economies with some of these things, right? Because I mean, the digital world is not going away. But to your point, I mean, people are listening to more records. I mean, I've had people on that have they have their own medical practices here in the United States where you just pay a subscription base and you don't have to go through the large healthcare system for basic treatments. So maybe that's the direction that we're heading. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
but the grift you're talking about, this kind of insidious eating away at you. And it's like maybe it's subconscious for a lot of people. Like you're very awakened. You know what's going on. You've become conscious. What's the term? The red pill, blue pill? I always get it mixed up. I've kind of got a
I
bit of
think it's
speech
the red
dyslexia.
pill. It's a the,
Taken, you've taken the red pill, so you're like that's what happens. Is that what Neo gives? Is that what Neo gives? Gets from Lawrence Fishburne, as he called in the Matrix or something. Anyway,
yeah. I'm trying to think. I can't. I was trying to think of the character's
yeah,
name in it. Up
yeah,
top,
yeah.
it'll come to me.
Morpheus
Right.
gives Neo. Is it a red pill? Then he takes the right one. Is it the
Yep.
red pill?
Yep.
Right. So we've been red pilled, and but I think subconsciously it still must be eating away at people. And I've been wondering for a long time, at least the last 10 years, that there's just this massive growth in apocalyptic zombie TV on the TV shows. I'm like, what is this? These people don't pay for these shows to be made unless they know they're going to be successful, and they're looking at big data. And big data now, they have so much data on us that they know things about us that we don't even know yet, or we're not conscious of. And I just wonder whether or not that whole attraction to that kind of this survival, we have to survive and we're having stuff thrown at us every single day. And it's like you're in purgatory, because there's no way out. There is no ending to this. In any of these shows, then sometimes there is never ending. Look at Lost. It just went on forever and ever and ever and ever. And like after like 15 series or something, it was like suddenly, yeah, we're not quite sure what the ending is. So we're just going to say maybe it's purgatory or something. And I just wonder if I wonder if it's kind of manifesting really a deep-seated kind of feeling of hopelessness, but at the same time, this determination that we will carry on.
Well, and also I think too, and I think COVID showed this the mental beatdown that people went through because of it. To your point of demoralizing everybody, so that they have no fight left in them. To what
Mm.
I think the ultimate direction where we're heading with all this, and we talked about this offline, and it's becoming. I think it's one of the top stories out there right now. And I don't think it's getting the recognition or attention that maybe it should. Is this whole deleveraging of the dollar? Or not
Well,
devaluation.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, I think obviously Nixon takes the dollar off the gold standard in 1971 temporarily. From what I can see, because there were unsustainable costs, Vietnam War, whatever they were spending the money on at the time. And if you look on YouTube, you can actually find it. De Gaulle, the French president, at a United Nations event. It's in black and white, and he's saying in his French accent, that he doesn't trust the Americans not to be printing money on the side, like they've been entrusted to be the kind of the global standard, monetary standard based on the dollar, and everything's fixed to the dollar because it's backed by gold, and Fort Knox is supposed to be full of gold. And that was where the trust comes. But there wasn't really an audit going on. And they were kind of, how do we know you're not printing money? And so the French Navy was sailing into New York Harbor every month in 1969, I think, in 1970, and saying, hey, we don't really want these dollars. We'll have the gold, thank you. Because a state nation could exchange the dollars for the gold. And obviously, what happened was then they went, what are we going to do? Our gold's going down. We have to do something about it. Well, let's come off the gold standard. And that was the beginning of the end. And but it's done some amazing things for a US. I mean, incredible. It's strengthened its position as a world power because it has been able to print all this money, really utilizing this a phenomenal country and its phenomenal population, and saying, and the fact that the dollar was the medium of exchange on the planet, still is today, the medium of exchange. We'll come on to that in a minute, I think, but I don't think what we're talking about here is that its store of value is becoming worthless, and has been since that time, because now, of course, they can print as much as they want, have been since 1971. And that's a privilege. That's a privilege that's really benefited America. It's really benefited the people of America, because they could effectively borrow any amount. And as long as that was put into productive outcomes, then that was good for America. Building of its tech scene and all of this, building of its military might was enabled by the ability to print all this money. But I think that unchecked has led to natural inefficiencies within government. And you've seen a lot of that being opened up now, where people are suddenly seeing the inefficiencies at a grotesque level. And this isn't just the US, this exists in every country in the world. They're not run like businesses. People aren't checking how the money is spent. And there's no kind of reconciliation. And as a result, you end up with a culture where the money, if you know, someone said, yeah, if you look at what they're doing, it's easy to see what the outcome is. If the money is free, what's going to happen? It's going to lead to, what's the phrase? Uneconomic, inefficient and uneconomic and immoral kind of. Sorry, I'm getting
Unintended consequences.
No, it's inefficient allocation of resources, because there is no consequence of getting it wrong, because the debt just keeps going up. Well, we'll just raise some more money and we can print it. And if people don't want to buy it, then we'll just get the central bank to buy it. But for a very long time, people did buy it because the US dollar was and has been, still is, the world's medium of exchange. And so there isn't much consequence, or there hasn't been much consequence to, money printing. And of course, this has become kind of, in a way, grotesque. Now, what is it, nearly $37 trillion of US debt? And now suddenly people are waking up and going, hang on a second, that's a lot of debt. And, COVID, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back. You might think it was a pretty big, more a hay bale, because, it was a big thing, 20% of all US dollars in existence. Imagine all the dollars around the planet in America, all 20% of that printed in 1 year, like phenomenal amount of money. Obviously, that really kind of helped accelerate the inflation, which I thought was bad enough, as I said, at 2%. I mean, that takes away 90% of your purchasing power, or 85% of your purchasing power in less than one's lifetime. Like, why would anybody even want to use a currency like that? But that acceleration, I think, really woke up the world to the fact that nearly $37 trillion is a lot of money. And like our friend Andy Sheckman says, to put that into perspective, 1 trillion seconds ago was 31,600 years ago. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm starting to get the idea of what a trillion is. And you've got 37 trillion nearly dollars worth of debt. And that's never going to be paid off. I mean, there's no way. I don't think President Trump, he can maybe slow things down. He can't reverse $37 trillion dollars worth of debt. Maybe he could do 1 or 2 trillion. But, it's not going away. And so I think I think it's been good for America, but I think it just went too far. There was no one there to sanity saying, maybe you guys should slow down.
Even if there was, though, they never would have stopped, right? Because nobody wants to deal with this on their watch.
Is that a problem with democracy itself? Like, who are you going to vote for? It's like, imagine if as dads, we were voted in by our children, and I'm like, I love my children. I want the best for them. So I'm like, look, guys, I'm going to be a good dad to you, and I'm going to teach you, and I'm going to help you, and I'm going to love you. But, I'm going to also give you discipline, and I'm going to help you have discipline, and you're going to be disciplined with your diet, you're going to be disciplined with your pocket money, and you're going to be disciplined with your exercise. And then some joker comes along, says, hey guys, don't listen to him. With me, if you make me your dad, I'm going to give you chocolate cake and sweets every morning. You don't have to get out of bed if you don't want to. You can watch TV anytime you want, and that's democracy, isn't it? I mean, And does that, therefore, is democracy always going to, and by the way, I'm not a socialist or anything like that. I'm just pointing out that maybe democracy and capitalism, well, I don't, capitalism, another thing. Democracy is just the best out of a bad bunch of systems. But at the end of the day, we've all got ourselves to blame because we vote people in. And then they go, well, what are we going to do? We haven't got enough money. Well, let's just print some more. And the US has been able to get away with it. The UK couldn't necessarily do that because, we don't have this amazing trust. We're not running the world's medium of exchange, the system by which, the whole commerce of the planet runs. And so people look very carefully at how much debt is being created. But people had their eyes off that ball. They weren't worried about it because, we need dollars. We need dollars to buy oil. We need dollars to do international commerce.
Well, I think as well though too. For me, the real awakening was back in 2008 because you had the whole financial system that was melting down, and what did they do? They just propped all these companies, including the automakers. The automakers wouldn't have survived that.
We were maybe minutes away from the whole system coming to a complete and utter end, like finished, and you've got former leaders in government, who were in the room making the orders. Alistair Darling was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, I think, in the UK here. And he's come out and said, yeah, we were minutes away. We were like maybe a few hours away from this all completely collapsing globally. And they're like, right, you're a bank, you're going to buy this other bank. No questions. You're going to do it. That's what you're going to do. Orders, and, obviously, oh yeah, don't worry about it. We'll give you the money. Don't worry, And of course, a complete destruction of any consequences about bad behavior. And if you get rid of all the consequences of bad behavior, effectively, that's what destroys capitalism for me. So you wonder why there's a kind of more of a growing socialist movement for people. Well, it feels like it's growing to me. And often what they're saying is, well, capitalism doesn't work for us. And it doesn't work. And it doesn't work for everybody. Those closest to the money supply, this hose pipe of free money that's been pumping out of the system, those people closest to that money supply benefit disproportionately to everybody else. So we're talking about the have-nots versus the have-yots, and, the richest in society can borrow as much money as they want, or have been able to, and I'm sure they still are able to do, and they've been able to do it for the last 20 years nearly for free. And in fact, in Germany, if you wanted to buy $1 billion, then, you would literally you'd be paid to do it. And they're able to then go and buy physical assets, and those assets then start going up in value as all the rich people start buying them. Meanwhile, by the time, an ordinary person in America or Britain or anywhere gets around to saving up enough money to get a deposit on a mortgage to buy that house, for instance, the house has gone up in price. Or has it? In gold terms, the house has gone down in price. And this is where the whole red pill thing comes into it. About 1970, when I was born, roughly around that time, a house cost the average house in America cost $17,000. And in gold, it cost 17,000 grams. I know a lot of people are used to listening to thinking about gold in ounces, but just trust me, 17,000 grams. $17,000 or 17,000 grams. Now, if you keep the $17,000, it doesn't even give you the down payment on the house today, does it? But the 17,000 grams buys you 3 houses. So in gold terms, house prices have gone down, which is what you'd expect. Technology, development, all of that kind of thing, the better, more efficient supply chain should lead to reducing prices. You should have deflation. You ever watch the Jetsons?
Yeah.
I love the Jetsons. Who doesn't love the Jetsons? Flying cars, all that kind of house, the house of the future and everything. That was the dream when we were kids. But like, it hasn't come because we haven't had that deflation, and Silicon Valley right now, Trump's pulled them. He's co-opted the Silicon Valley kind of business people into Washington, and
or vice
I don't
versa,
think.
or vice versa, Jason.
Oh, vice. Oh, yeah, I'm not sure, but they're now trying to dismantle a lot of the bureaucracy and stuff, and they want to. The big vision is that technology will save America. With AI and robotics, we'll be able to create so much productivity that it will counter whatever problems we're having. Well, it hasn't happened like that for the last 50 years since 1970. The masses, yes, there's been an increase in the standard of living, but now we have a situation where the wealth gap has never been this big. Never. And if you think about what AI is doing, I mean, by the way, I'm a big supporter of using technology whenever you can to bring better utility and efficiency to your business. That's what GLINT is all about. It's about using technology to enable gold as money and electronic payments in real time. But you've also got to be aware of the problems, getting society to where it is now, to a Jetsons-like utopia. We've got to take everybody in America through the eye of the needle. And how hard is that? We're told it's very hard. I can imagine it's very hard. How on earth are we going to do that? I was born in a city which was post-industrial. It had been a very famous, very productive shipbuilding city. There were coal mining industry all around it. And it lost that over a period of, I'm guessing, maybe 30 years. And it's never really recovered from that. It's never got back to being this amazing buoyant place where incredible buildings were built and all that kind of thing. It's not,
Well,
and we're going to be losing. There's going to be a lot of jobs lost with AI and robotics very quickly. And I don't believe for one second that we're going to go through the eye of the needle and pop out the other side without too much strife.
if this works, right? I mean, it appears that with Treasury Secretary Bessent, the Trump administration. I mean, Andy was talking about when he had Francis Hunt on, and he was talking about this. Like this is the time that they would usher in this new digital currency over the next 4 years. And when I first heard that with that conversation with those guys, which people listening to this, I encourage you to go back and watch. But I was like, wow, this makes sense. This makes sense for it to occur now. Are we truly at the end of the line?
Well, it kind of is interesting that the gold price is soaring so much. I mean, for those of you who haven't been following, gold went up 30% last year, 30%. It was up. It's up 43% in the last 12 months to date. I haven't checked it. I haven't checked the price in the last hour, but it was popping up at it was nearly at $3,000 an ounce. $3,000 an ounce. Goldman Sachs was saying, well, within a year we might get to $3,000 an ounce. This is only February the 10th, and it's already at $3,000 an ounce, nearly $6 away, and interest rates are high. That never happens. What happens normally is when the US dollar is strong compared to other fiat currencies, and when interest rates are high, people put their money into, interest-bearing products like bonds and bank accounts and things like that, because you're going to be getting 6.5%. What's the interest rate in America right now? It's something like that.
I don't have it up at the top of my head, but that's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so and people buy less gold. Well, hang on. So what's been happening is that interest rates are high, the dollar's strong against other fiat currencies, and gold is ripping. That never happens. It never happens. Maybe it has never happened. And so gold is telling us something, and so gold is ripping. And then what happens is that people, Trump, the administration, other people in the world, all kinds of stuff's happening that's going to double down on that. I mean, tariffs, they've got to be inflationary, if you ask me, and maybe people have said, well, we can't default on our debt. At some point, people are just going to stop buying our US bonds because the debt, no way we can reverse this debt. So we're still going to have this debt. We probably won't get the productivity that we hope we will fast enough. And what happens if there's a bond auction that fails? At that point, people are like, we don't really want to buy this debt at any price. And that means the central or at an interest rate that is just unpalatable for everybody. And at that point, guess who has to step in? Mr. Federal Reserve again. Let's buy the debt. Quantitative easing on a massive scale now because no one's buying the bonds. And at that point, I think you might be getting hyperinflation. Well, not hyperinflation, like big inflation, 15%. But, you do 15% inflation for 6 or 7 years and suddenly your 36, 37, 38, $40 trillion doesn't feel that big. And maybe, all that gold that's in Fort Knox, people have been saying a long time, maybe there isn't any gold in Fort Knox because it hasn't been audited for a very long time, but maybe there is a lot of gold in Fort Knox. And maybe now the price is going to 3,000. If they let it go and they encourage it to go to 4,000 or 5,000 or higher, then suddenly you rebalance your books and you do mark to market with your gold reserves, and maybe the balance sheet of America doesn't look so bad.
What do you think the masses would do if they understood what's going on right now with the surge in gold and the devaluation of the dollar?
Can you just hold that there 1 second? I need to go and get I've just realized I haven't got plugged my laptop and it's down to 5%.
Yeah.
Can we hold that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
talk through. Oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
You talk. You carry on talking. You can talk.
Can you hear? You can hear me, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go down the corridor of my office, so I might cut out.
Okay. Well, if you cut out, but I'll still chat with you while you're doing that. Yeah. So your thoughts are with that. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hear you, yeah.
So with that is and again, it comes back to what if people want to, if they want to if they really want to, can't get my words together here. Do they really want to know what's going on? But when they figure out that their dollars are worthless, and in my view, the pensions that they've been hanging on to, the equity in their homes, is all a lie. What do you think people will do? Oh, you must have cut out for a second. Because it's, and this is what I try to explain to people, and I don't think people want to come to terms with it in regards to where we are. And, because people have been saving, they have equity, maybe in their jobs, companies have promised them equity. And, when it comes how about people's pensions? How many, teachers or state employees, federal employees, when they come in when they go to start withdrawing, that there's nothing there, and it was never there to begin with. So, yeah, lots to take in. And
can you hear me?
Yep, I got you now.
Yeah. I learned today that during the Weimar Republic, as the inflation was ripping, the stock market was still going up, which is kind of what we're seeing, isn't it? Let me just check my audio is working.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's what we're seeing at the moment, stock market all-time high. Again, it's like what, but gold's going up. Again, it wouldn't normally happen that way. So gold's definitely telling us something. What would people do? Well, they would spend their dollars as fast as they can. And of course, I think that's going to probably drive up inflation again more. It's like it's like the snake eating its tail. It just keeps, and it creates a flywheel, and things get really bad, and inflation just goes up and up and up. It's not a great place. I don't really want that for my children. But we better to be prepared. But I think, as I said, maybe that's what they want. Or people might start buying a huge amount of gold. And if you do want to move ever to a gold standard, it's better for the country, I think, to already own a lot of gold. Not just the government, not just the central bank, but actually the population. And I think China has been a big encourager of this. Say, please buy as much gold as you want and stuff. You can buy gold anywhere in a bank, in a store, and they encourage people to do it. And I think the Chinese population are one of the biggest holders of gold in the world, as well as their own central banks. So, but if your population owns a lot of gold, then I think it's going to be easy. It must be easier to be able to move to some kind of gold standard. But I think the people in the central banks, really, I'm not sure they really are bothered about the medium of exchange anymore. Sorry, the store of value anymore of the dollar. That's not what's important to them. I think it's the power is held by the medium of exchange, the systems by which everyone moves money around the world, and the ability for the government to still be able to use sanctions as a weapon and as an influence in the world. And I think it's obvious that the dollar is increasingly not a good store of value, and there's plenty of other things you can do with that, as long as it's still a medium exchange and it's the thing which we pay each other in. Then I think the central banks and the powers in there are happy.
So you think that it's not about whether it's dollars or gold, or it's about the system. Am I understanding that correctly? And for them to keeping it centralized.
Yeah, gives them the power. It positions the U.S. The U.S. Whoever owns that payment system is center stage.
And that's where these tech people come into play, right? Because they're building the system. Well, we're already in a surveillance state here in America, in my view. We're already, so dependent on our smartphones to do everything.
But like I was on a phone call not that long ago, and I was talking about this to somebody, and someone overheard me and said, "Oh, you're over-exaggerating a little bit, aren't you?" I was like, "What are you talking about? Over-exaggerating? Like, how short is your memory?" Like Edward Snowden unearthed the biggest mass surveillance program of the century on our own population. He's had to go to Russia for it. And you can talk about, I don't want to get into whatever the conspiracies around that, but at the end of the day, it did happen. It was admitted. It happened, And so, like, what we think that they just stopped doing that? Sorry, it's amazing though, isn't it? This comes back to the whole recency bias thing. Like, it's amazing how nobody is now talking about it. And you have just said, I think, like, it's because it's such a big wave of washing over, like, oh, that didn't happen. Don't look here. Forget about that. It's not a thing. No, of course not. What are you talking about? Like, it's better and easier for them than it's ever been to do that.
I mean, you're going to tell me every person that has a Ring camera in their home, because everybody has those now, that they're not looking at that if they want to, and there's nothing.
Well, I mean, look at quantum computers, right? So everyone's like going, "Oh, quantum computers, another 20 years before they'll be able to do anything practical with them and stuff." We're seeing innovation being released on a daily basis that is showing that is accelerating very fast. How do we know that there hasn't been a Manhattan Project already and they already have the quantum computers? I don't know. Like, and they all, and the other thing is that you get too big. I mean, look at Tether. Do you know Tether?
Yeah, they just made a large investment into Rumble.
Right. Well, Tether, like obviously one of the biggest biggest stable coin in the world. Tether USD. It powers something like 80% of the Bitcoin trades on the planet. Yet it's offshore, never been audited, not regulated. I mean, that's got to be a candidate for disruption, you'd think. But anyway, do you not think that at some point when it got to a certain scale, there wasn't a tap on the founder's shoulder? Hey, we're from a certain we're from a certain department of the U.S. government, and wouldn't it be a good idea if we worked together? I think, yes. You're not going to say no when that tap comes on your shoulder. So, all those people who are like so happy that Bitcoin is a distributed ledger and, it's got confidentiality. It's like, how do you think they tend to nearly always find the stolen cryptocurrency within a couple of months? It's because it's distributed so we can all see all the transactions and where they're going. And we've got friends who are very powerful and got big businesses in the crypto space that we get the data from, and we're able to put two and two together. I mean, I that's a scenario which I'm pretty confident happens more often than not. I don't think they need to have cryptographic encryption. I think people get co-opted.
Well, and also too, I mean, don't you find it interesting how this administration is so pro crypto, right? I mean, they have a whole unit that's allocated towards it, and
Yeah.
they're not going to say digital currency, right? Because that's taboo, but it's moving in the direction of the same thing. I think it's inevitable at this point. And so do you think, you've been talking about constitutional gold. Do the states recognize this is heading that direction? And
Oh, this is amazing. It's blown my mind what the US states are doing. Like, I never thought for 1 second, Mike, when I was sat there in 2008 watching the world fall down around me, the financial world, and thinking about setting up GLINT so that we could put everyone on their own personal gold standard so that they could buy gold, everybody could have access to it, democratize access to it, and you can spend it real time anywhere in the world where the MasterCard's accepted. Never did I think at any point in the journey since then that I would find that the US might be standing up, constitutional gold currency, using their constitutional rights enshrined in Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 of the US Constitution, which, let's be clear, forbids any state to create its own currency except gold and silver. And these US states, they are looking at what's happening at the federal level, and they are very worried. They've been, a lot of them have been worried in the past. Some of them, especially if they're Republican, have been worried about central banking digital currencies. Any state has been worried about the rising wealth gap. Everybody is worried about inflation, and everybody is worried about the unsustainable mountain of debt. So, yes, the states are worried and want to do something about this. But what could they do? If it was any other country in the world, they couldn't do anything. Nothing can be done about this in the UK. I can't see anything happening. But in the US, there's this amazing system where the states are able to keep the federal government in check and vice versa. That's how as I see it from the outside, how it's supposed to work. And maybe some people, especially in central government, have forgotten about that. But here you now have a president who is supportive of states' rights. The states are now realizing, or some people have, hang on a second, we don't have to play this game. We don't have to. The founding fathers had this amazing insight to come up with a constitution that foresaw the problems that are going on right now and put in a checks and balance. They they gave them a pull in case of emergency. And that is, the states have every right to use gold and silver as a currency. Like, what are you talking about, Jason? I've heard people say, well, you can use a product like GLINT or another to be able to use gold as money, even in our electronic monetary system, even in this global electronic financial services ecosystem. You can now use gold as money. Like, we've done it with GLINT, and there's our card, and you can download the app, and you can get a card, you can buy gold, and you can use it in electronic payments. And the states have realized that this not only is this possible, this is happening. The gift I feel that I've given state legislators, treasurers, and grassroots activists around the country is to be able to say, hey, you can do this really easily. Because when you first go into, the Treasury Department of a state, and the deputy, the treasurer might like it because he's a strategy guy, he's a big thinker. But the deputy treasurer then goes, hold on a second, what are you talking about? Gold currency? What? How's that going to happen? That's going to take years of working out, loads of clever people to try and work it out. How are we going to integrate that? How are we going to make that happen? And you say, hey, it's lunchtime, isn't it? Is there any somewhere we can get something to eat around here? Oh, let's go to the local cafe, and you go in there and you get the sandwich and stuff, and you say, hey, just check this out. And you get the app out, the card out, you pay with the card. It sells a little bit of my gold. It pays the merchant in the currency that they want, which is US dollars. And suddenly the deputy treasurer goes, wow, that was easy. I was like, yeah, we've got to get this done as quickly as possible. And so there's now this momentum that's happening across the United States, like 23 states last time I checked. Sometimes, bipartisan support, it might be a Republican bill sponsor with Democrat co-sponsors. It is like, in Utah, just last week, their bill got in front of the House, one of the House committees, and they had a fantastic presentation. You should check it out online. And it passed bipartisan unanimous pass. Like that never happens very often. I don't think it ever happens. Probably if it does, it doesn't happen very often, because everybody recognizes the destruction of, our economic ability. Everybody sees the economic injustice in that. The immoral taxation of our wealth through inflation. And to make matters worse with gold as well, the immoral taxation of just trying to maintain your purchasing power with gold, which of course the IRS do. And they're waking up and they're going, wow, we not only is the technology available for us to do this, we have the right to do it. We don't have to ask permission. This is already enshrined in the Constitution. This is every state's right. All they need to do is tell themselves they're going to do it. They just need to say, yes, like, let's have a choice. Let's introduce this choice for our citizens. And let's try and give them some reliability in a very insecure world. Let's try and give young families the ability to save in a form of hard money, which doesn't tend to, to depreciate like fiat currencies and it does hold its value over time. Why don't you just say we're doing it? That's all they need to do. And so it's very easy for these committees now to just say, yes, that's a good idea. I mean, who would think it was a bad idea? Especially because the other thing is that the product like GLINT already exists and it already complies with, banking and, state-based laws and stuff, and has to maintain, processes and systems that kind of keep up to that kind of standard and expectation that you have when you're dealing with financial services. Why not? Why don't we allow it? And I think goes back to what we were saying about the central banks as well. Are they really bothered? I don't think so, because even in Utah, where they did a whole work group on this, they studied it for a year before they came into this legislative session. And on that group were people like Gary Crittenden, the former CFO of American Express, and Randy Quarles, former vice chairman of the Federal Reserve. And they were not dissing it. They were saying quite vociferously, don't start talking about the end of the US dollar, because that's not going to happen, And I kind of get their point, because as a medium of exchange, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. That's why there's no point, we need something like this to work with the existing financial system. I want to be able to pay with my gold at 34,000 feet in the air, American Airlines, Wi-Fi costs, because American Airlines, though, are not going to price it in grams or ounces. They're going to price it in dollars. I want to pay for my $15 burger in New York, or my, my ribs in Texas, or my green juice in California with gold, but they're pricing it in dollars, right? So they're happy because everything's still being priced in dollars. They don't really care that juice or that burger's twice as much next year. So yeah, this is happening across every single, a lot of states in America right now, Mike. And if any of your listeners believe that they feel that there should be a better form of money, but have kind of don't even think about it normally, because what's the point? Nothing can change. Well, I'm telling you, it can change. It is changing right now. You have the option to be able to pick up the phone, get on your email, and ask your legislator, is he supporting this? Is he going to support the representative who is putting these bills forward because you want it? Well, these people, these are great people, by the way. You know, they work really hard, the state reps. They have to hold other jobs whilst they're doing it because they don't get paid much, you know, to do this. These people, there's somebody in your state, there's a good chance there's somebody in your state who is trying to push one of these bills forward, and everybody else will vote for it, and they'll vote it through the committees, and they'll vote for it in the House and the Senate if you tell them this is what you want. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to introduce sound money back to America. And if you're not doing it and yet you believe in sound money, then what are you doing? Why? Like, stop talking about it. Action. Get on the email. Go to transactionalgold.com. It's not our website. It's an outfit in Texas who are like Economic War Room, run by Kevin Freeman and Mike and Russell. They're doing a great job. They're going state to state. They're going to exhibition, trying to tell people about it. They're writing books. Pirate Money. Download go and order the Pirate Money book off Amazon or from your favorite bookstore, and read about this really easy book. You read it in like 3 days. I'll explain everything to you. Not 3 days constantly, like 3 days at my kind of speed. Like, I'm got to look after the kids, got to look after the business, and now and again I get to read a book. And I can do it in 3 or 4 days. You can read Pirate Money. It's a great book. Kind of explains it really simply. It's just like opening another account. It's just another way to pay, and it just happens to have gold at its heart. And you might be thinking, well, why should a state get involved if companies like GLINT already exist? Well, there's some really good reasons. You know, taxes, trust, and taking. So taxes, that's what the state needs to get involved, because only the state can classify something as legal tender. GLINT can't do that, but the state can. Yeah. Bitcoiners can't do that with Bitcoin. They can't with cryptocurrency. I mean, these are great initiatives. Yeah, you know, I think everyone should maybe try a bit of Bitcoin or something, but they can't become legal tender in the US because it's not in the Constitution. It's forbidden. Anything but, you know, gold or silver. Gold or silver is allowed. So even if you're a big crypto maxi, get behind this, because this is a sound money solution. Take it, like, you know, take it and gain that. At least you're moving forward in the right direction. You can then lobby for Bitcoin to get the same treatment, but this is the low-hanging fruit. So, and if this happens, then the IRS won't be able. Most attorney generals at the state level believe that they will have to let capital gains tax fall away from gold. Now, I always say, if you're fortunate enough to have a capital gain, which you are more often than not with gold. Obviously, the price of gold can go up and down as the confidence in the dollar goes up and down, and generally down. But, you know, you're often got a capital gains tax to pay on the gains. With GLINT, we had to build a report so you can calculate your capital gains tax for you, especially if you're making all these transactions. So that's covered, but it's still something that's still a friction to ultimate sound money. And the IRS shouldn't be able to tax a currency that is legal tender. Now, in 2011, states like, you know, Utah, for instance, in 2011, said that gold eagles and silver eagles and anything minted by the federal government was legal tender. And I think a lot of people expected then at that point for capital gains tax to fall away. And they said, oh, no. The spirit of the Constitution that you've talked about, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, is that this is supposed to be about gold as currency, and currency needs to be both legal tender and be transactional. And of course, your coins are not really transactional. You can't pop into Starbucks in Atlanta and pay with your gold coin. I tried to do that in Texas, by the way, and asked the ladies behind the thing how much they thought the 1 ounce gold coin was, and they said $25. You wouldn't get much change back enough if you had $2,000 for nearly $3,000 coin. So they said, we're still going to tax these coins. In fact, we're going to tax them as collectibles, which means you get an even bigger tax when you do that. So it's just obscene. So here again, we have this immoral taxation of just trying to keep our purchasing power. as the unequal weights and measures of your money is being eroded, which is immoral. So that's tax, trust, and taking. So take trust. Gold is centralized. So it's in a vault. And I think that with GLINT, for instance, we get audited annually by a third-party auditor. We also have quarterly audits of the gold in the vault as well. And I think the state can play a really great role in being part of that audit process of somebody running such a platform. Trust. And then the last one is taking. So we all know that in the 1930s, gold was banned. Gold was confiscated. Now, I have, for all kinds of reasons, believe that couldn't happen anymore again. I mean, at the time, the dollar was pegged and the gold were the same price. They were interchangeable. So people didn't feel they were losing out until they'd lost it, and then they let go of the peg and the gold price soared. And they probably felt bitter grapes. But at the time, it was kind of, well, $1, one bit of gold. We're not taking your value away. We're just taking the gold. You need to do it for your country, be patriotic, and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that we're not in that situation anymore. I don't think that they could do that without having a civil war. But even still, you can't put anything past. You can't necessarily guarantee a federal government wouldn't do that. But if the state has authorized it, and you've got big states, if you get a compact of states like, Texas, Florida, Utah, whatever, getting together, there's no way they could do that either. So I think that's why a state needs to be involved. That's why states are looking to get involved. Trust, taxes, taking, protecting all of that. And it's GLINT's able to prove that you can already get yourself on your own personal gold standard. The hard work's all been done. And we spent millions and millions of dollars building this, and 10 years, and don't have to worry about that. And look, they might not choose GLINT to do it. Someone else might be able to do it. But what I'm saying is that the technology exists, and it can be done. And this is very different, of course, to gold bars and coins, which I encourage everyone to buy. People like my friend and your friend Andy Sheckman do a really good job of making sure that people can get hold of their bars and coins, and people store them and they vault them in their own property and stuff. But that isn't the only world we live in, and I hope that the world where those things are needed never comes, because that's a pretty dark place. And what I generally did, we joked about it at the beginning, what I generally believe is that, with GLINT, we're creating a light at the end of the tunnel. And we need solutions that have utility, that are complementary to gold bars and coins, that participate in this existing financial services ecosystem, but is also independent of it. So yes, when you've got gold in your account, then you buy it and you can use it. We get the card and you can spend it anywhere in the world where MasterCard's accepted. That means when there's a medical emergency, or where you want to pay for some school fees, or you find yourself you've lost your other cards, and you can spend your gold anytime you want. What is someone going to do if they've just bought one of these gold bars at Costco? Is Costco going to take it back? If they are, what premium are they going to charge? All these things. Can you get to a Costco? I don't know. That's a different type of solution. But I think GLINT gives this instant liquidity, which is what the states want to be able to give their citizens, and guarantee their ability to use it.
How important was you doing okay on time? A few more minutes?
Yeah.
How important was it for you, being the CEO and founder of GLINT, to creating this for people like myself in the times that we're in? I mean, you feel like the work you're doing right now is it's so important.
Well, when I had the idea, I mean, so I'm not from financial. Did I explain where my background? Yeah, I studied architecture, so I was somebody who designs things, systems, buildings, and I then spent time developing, went into virtual reality and then e-commerce, and so I was always looking at, back in the late 90s, early noughties, I was always looking at the world around me and thinking of ways in which this emerging digital ecosystem could benefit society, businesses, people, do things better, newer ways. And it was a bit of a curse, really, Mike, because I'm constantly looking at things, thinking, how do we do that differently? Like, go to a restaurant, and this stuff kind of seems pretty normal now. But I'm thinking there's a menu, and I'm having to wait for the waiter, the waitress. Why can't I just, you know, just scan my phone and get the menu and make my order on? Why can't I just do that? So I can't get a hold of this product because it's in a different city. Why can't I just do this with e-commerce? And so that was the mindset, which was always it was a curse because you're always trying to think of solutions. You have every day you'd have a new idea. Every month one of those ideas would be worth dealing with. And maybe out of the 12 good ideas that are worth dealing with a year, maybe one of them really is something worth pursuing. But when 2008 came, it was like a punch in the face. It's like, wow, my money's not worth anything. Over time. And wow, a bank is not a risk-free deposit of funds. What are you talking about? It's become enshrined in our vernacular. Oh, bank that, like as if it's some safe thing. Well, it's like, look, banks, they perform a really important function in our economy. We all need to borrow money and things for housing and stuff like that. But it's by design. There is no, that money, once I put it in, is put at risk, and a lot in it. There isn't enough money to go around once they lend out 5 times as much as they have. And so I just felt, and I learned about gold, and I just thought, suddenly I saw the solution. We can't wait for governments. We can't wait for central banks. They're not going to change anything. We just need to take control of our own destiny. We need to put ourselves on our own personal gold standard. And that's what Glint's all about. And when I saw that, I thought, I have to do this. And first of all, I felt I could. Like, first of all, I believed in the kind of delusional way a tech entrepreneur believes they can do something. I kind of thought, I can do this. I can do something like this. And then once you realize that, I couldn't let go. Like, I just realized how big it was. Like, it's huge. Trying to fix money is huge. And I could tell how stressful it was going to be and how big it was going to be and how long it was going to take. I'd been around the block long enough to know there's always something around the corner to give you a kick. But I just thought, I can't be lying on my deathbed thinking, what if I'd done that thing I wanted to do? I was going to call Glint. What if surely I couldn't be that person. So I had to do it. It's like a vocation. It's not like I'd earned a lot more money, just could have just gone and got a job with Facebook and then maybe OpenAI, that's the kind of world I was in. But it's like a vocation. Once you have a vocation, you actually can't stop. You actually have no control of what you're doing. Like, you have to just get on with it. And it's we have ups and downs and challenges and all of that. And but you got to keep going. Got to have that resilience, like those long distance runners we were talking about before. And it probably helped me that I was like running 50 odd miles a week and was thinking about ultra marathons because. And this is where it goes back to what we're saying about the education of young people. They need to be educated to have resilience and to keep going and to be innovative and creative, because especially in a world of AI, and robotics, the one thing they're going to have to deal with a lot, and we all need to try and channel this, is we need to be able to deal with change, and we need to be able to learn, and we need to be resilient. And I think that's what the gold gives you. It gives you resilience. Sorry, it was a bit of a rant.
No. So where could people, if they want to get more familiarized with your organization, and where would they be able to find it?
Well, have you got time? Can I just quickly show you the app? Because I think sometimes people
I'm worried more about I'm worried about your time, Jason. I'm fine.
Yeah. Don't worry. Let's have a look at this. Because they're thinking, what is he talking about using gold as money in electronic payments? So, can you see that now?
Yep, I can.
Yeah, so this is the app, just downloaded this from the App Store, and you can register. You can register with you have to put all your details in. We're mandated by all the regulations in America. We have to have some information about you because we've got to have systems in place to stop money laundering and terrorist financing, all that kind of stuff. So we have to have that information. And also, we need to get to know you. Like, Mike, if we had a branch, you'd come in the branch and we'd get to know you, see you. We know who you are, but when you're doing it remotely, we need this information. We cross-reference it against other databases stuff. We've got a pretty good idea who you are once you've gone through that. But you can be in and do all of that within about 3 minutes. And so, you could do that right now. You could just download the Glint app from the App Store, Glint Pay, and you can get in there and you have to buy a little bit of gold. That's all we ask you to do when you're going through the onboarding process. Buy a little bit of gold. There's a few options you can select. You can put any amount you want in if you choose other amount, and you're in the app. And this is the US version is going to have gold, silver, which we just introduced before Christmas, and US dollars. It won't have pounds and euros in there. And if you scroll this down, you won't have a card yet. You can order a card though. It normally costs about $10, but I tell you, if your listeners who are listening to me, if you type in Mike 25, so MIKE 25, we'll make sure that you will get the card for nothing. It normally costs $10 to get shipped to you. But if you type in Mike 25 during the onboarding process, to do it right at the beginning, when they ask for a referral code, or promo code, type in Mike 25. I'll make sure that happens, so you can all get a card. And it's so easy. Like I can just go into my gold wallet. Look at that. Look at that. That's amazing. That's like, wow, that's like 43%. It's gone up in the last 12 months. And it's nearly at $3,000 an ounce. It keeps touching on that. That's the last week. That's so close. What did that get to? Anyway, so this is ripping because of everything we've been talking about today. But I can buy any amount of gold. This was important to me because I believe that everyone should have an equal opportunity to prosper. And so, you can buy as little as 1 cent's worth of gold. If I go to my US dollar wallet, I can buy 1 cent's worth of gold. So there should be no excuse for anyone not being able to buy some gold. And young people can do this as well. But let's just buy $10 worth of gold. I press review, confirm, boom. I've just bought $10 of gold. That's 0.1, just over 0.1 gram of a gold, of a real physical bar that's in the vault. It's in the Brinks vault. It's insured by Lloyd's of London. And I can do this in America. Anyone in the US, anyone in the UK can do this. And we've got like over 200,000 registered users. We've got like 55,000 people using it on a monthly basis. There's like we're even supplying gold to one of the US states at institutional level, and it's all working great. And sometimes we get it wrong. Please write to us, tell us if we're not getting it right. We need your feedback because we're building this for you. And if you think you've got a better idea if something's not working for you, tell us. If you think it would be better, we're always trying to get better. But I've just bought that gold. Now, remember what I said about the card? If I go back to the card, I can order one. It'll come in the post, and I'll get my card. And once I've activated it, it'll by default, I think, already linked to my gold account. And so that gold I bought, next time I use my card, look what happens. Let me go back into here. What was my last transaction? Lime Pass. Okay. That is an electric bike, which I hired in London to get here. I'm in London this week. And it should have cost me £8.99. That's just above $10. I used my card and I paid with 0.1220 grams of gold. That's with an electric bike in the street. I just used my MasterCard. Yeah, anywhere in the world, MasterCard, almost anywhere in the world where MasterCard's accepted. I think we don't allow it in things like fuel stations because they're not online. But almost anywhere in the world where MasterCard is accepted, you can spend your gold when you need to. And I hear some people saying you shouldn't sell your gold and stuff. Well, maybe that was the situation. I'll just come out of here for a second. Maybe that was the situation. People talk about Gresham's law, that you don't spend your gold and that bad money drives out good money, all that kind of stuff. Well, there's another thing called Thayer's law. It says that good money pushes out bad money. The reason why people don't spend their gold is because they've got dollars in their account. And the reason they have dollars in their account is because they can't spend their coins or their bars. So they have more dollars than they have gold, just about, And so, but with Glint, and one of my first investors, bless him, he's in his 90s. And he said to me, Jason, what I love about Glint is it allows me to put my ready money into gold. And so, yes, you can save in gold, but you can put your ready money in gold as well. And any time you're ready, Whatever you need to spend that on. We have some clients who are just generally on their own gold standard. They're getting paid in gold, they are saving in gold, and they're spending in gold. And this right now they're laughing because gold's up 43% and they feel they're getting everything for free. And there are other people that just want to save it. And they was maybe saving it for that house. You know, the young people in 10 years' time, they want to have enough money to buy that house, to have the deposit for that house. But what happens if they suddenly need the money? Because most of us from time to time, as I said, around every corner, there's something to give you a kick sometimes. You just pull out your MasterCard. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to dip into my gold. So different people using it different ways. But yeah, please download the app, check it out. Type in Mike25. I'd love to be you guys to get a free card and be onto your own personal gold standard as quickly as possible. Love to know that you came from Mike's show. And if you want any more information, you go to our website, www.glintpay.com. And there's silver on there as well, but you're not enabled to spend the silver yet. But silver's been a great addition. A lot of great feedback from our community. People love the fact we've got silver on the account now. So we're doing tons of silver every month too.
Social media?
Yes, on X, I think it's GLINT Pay. I started doing X a year ago, dipping in and out of it at the moment, but I think I'm GLINT CEO. I think. Should know that, shouldn't I? It shows you how I'm dipping in and out of it too much. I need to get a bit more dedicated to it. Yeah, sorry, my name, @Jason Cozens. That's Cozens. Maybe, Mike, you do me a big solid and type it out for people. Jason Cozens. Cozens like dozens. Spell like dozens.
I'll put the social media handles for both GLINT Pay and for you as well when I publish the episode. So
thank you.
You know, I appreciate this. I think it's very important for people to hear this conversation because, again, we are where we are, and what do you want to do? You know, do you want to be ahead of this as best you can? So I don't look at it as doom. I mean, people attack me, they hammer me because I'm like the ultimate pessimist, but I don't look at it like that.
Yeah, no, this is real. Your dollar has lost 90% of its purchasing power in your lifetime, or will be if you're young, and it's happening, and it's getting worse. Come on, let's not doom. This is just reality. Let's have a glint. Let's make sure you got a glint of light in your life, and that you can look forward to, being able to ride the storm with a bit of resilience behind you. So, yeah, whether it's gold bars, coins, or glint, or supporting your local state, or listening to Mike with his dulcet tones.
Jason, I thank you. I appreciate Andy connecting us, and look forward to more conversations ahead.
Yeah, really nice to meet you. Take care.
Mic drop.